Welcome to the Oracle's Rest, a place where stories unfold slowly, where time softens, and where the mind is free to wander. Tonight, we drift gently into the quiet world of animal minds. Tonight, we move slowly through 100 soft facts about animal intelligence, the hidden thinking of creatures all around us, the crows that remember faces, the octopuses that solve puzzles in the dark, the elephants that grieve, the dolphins that call each other by name. There is no need to follow closely. There is no need to remember anything at all. Simply let the facts drift past like leaves on slow water, one after another, while the mind grows heavier and the night grows soft. We begin with the crows, because crows remember everything. A crow can recognize a single human face and hold that memory for years. Researchers once wore particular masks while gently bothering wild crows, and long afterward, those same crows still scolded anyone wearing the mask. Even crows that had never been bothered at all. The knowledge had spread through the flock. Parents had taught it to their young. A face once marked as dangerous stayed dangerous across whole generations of birds. And crows do not only remember threats, they remember kindness too. Children who feed crows have sometimes received small gifts in return, tiny buttons, beads, bits of bright glass, left carefully where the food had been. Crows recognize one another as individuals, and they appear to gather when one of their own has died. People have watched dozens of crows fall silent around a fallen companion, standing together for a time before lifting away into the trees. Scientists are careful not to call this mourning in the human sense, but the crows do seem to be learning something, studying the place where danger found one of their kind, remembering it for later. And crows make tools. On the islands of New Caledonia, wild crows snap twigs from branches and trim them into hooks, then use those hooks to pull insects from deep inside rotting wood. They will even bend a piece of wire into a hook to lift a small bucket of food from a tube, something they were never taught and would never find in nature. A crow named Betty did this in a laboratory long ago, bending the wire with her beak, and the moment quietly amazed the scientists watching her. Some crows solve puzzles that unfold in many steps, where one tool must be used to reach a second tool, and the second tool to reach a third, before any food appears at all. They seem to hold the whole sequence in mind. before they begin, working through it patiently, as though they can see the ending from the start. And crows understand something about water. Drop by drop, a thirsty crow will place stones into a narrow vessel to raise the water inside until it can reach a floating treat, choosing heavy stones over light ones. Solid water over sand. It is the very trick told in one of Aesop's oldest fables, performed by a living bird. The ravens, cousins to the crows, may be more thoughtful still. A raven can plan for a tomorrow it cannot yet see, choosing and saving a tool it will only need hours later, or trading a token now for a better reward to come. Ravens hide their food in hundreds of small caches, and they seem to imagine being watched. If another raven might be spying, they will pretend to bury food in one place, while truly hiding it in another, deceiving a rival that may not even be there. They appear to understand that other minds hold knowledge different from their own, a quiet awareness that even young children take years to learn. And ravens play. They have been seen sliding down snowbanks again and again, rolling in the powder, dropping sticks in mid-air only to dive and catch them before they fall. There is no food in it, no clear purpose, only something that looks, from a distance, very much like joy. Their cousins, the magpies, carry this brightness further. A magpie, marked with a small spot of colour it can only see in a mirror, will reach to touch the spot on its own body, seeming to understand that the bird in the glass is itself. For a long time, people believed only humans and a few great apes could do this. The magpie, with a brain no larger than a walnut, quietly proved otherwise. That small brain holds a secret. A crow's brain is tiny beside a human's, yet it is packed with neurons far more densely than ours, so densely that a crow may carry as many neurons in its forebrain as some monkeys carry in theirs. Intelligence, it turns out, was never only about size, and crows have learned to live cleverly among us. In some cities, they drop hard nuts onto busy roads and let passing cars crack the shells, then wait at the crosswalk, returning to collect the soft insides only. When the traffic has stopped, they have folded the rhythm of our machines into their own quiet hunting. Now let the crows drift away, black wings folding into evening, and let us slip beneath the surface of the sea to the octopus. An octopus is a mind unlike any we will ever meet. It carries around 500 million neurons, nearly as many as a small dog, yet most of them are not in its head at all. They are spread through its 8 arms. Each arm can taste and touch and reach and decide, almost as if it were thinking on its own. An octopus does not so much command its arms as cooperate with them. A single creature that is also, in some strange way, 9 creatures together. An octopus can open a jar to reach the crab inside, twisting the lid loose with its arms. And some have learned to open such a jar even from the inside, working the mechanism in reverse. They solve mazes. They learn to tell shapes apart. They can find their way through a problem they have never seen simply by trying, watching, and remembering what worked. And they carry tools. Off the coast of Indonesia, the veined octopus gathers the empty halves of coconut shells, tucks them beneath its body, and carries them awkwardly across the sea floor, so that later, in open and dangerous water, it can pull the shells closed around itself like a small portable shelter to carry something useless now for the sake of safety later is a kind of planning the ocean rarely reveals. Octopuses know people apart. In laboratories, an octopus has been seen to favor one keeper and dislike another, and the disliked one, passing by the tank, has been met with a sudden, cold jet of water aimed squarely at them, again and again, day after day. They remember a face, and they remember a grievance, and they long for freedom. An octopus named Inky once escaped his aquarium in the night, slipping from his tank, crossing the floor, and pouring his soft body down a narrow drain pipe that led to the open sea. He was never seen again. An octopus has no bones at all, and a creature the size of a dinner plate can squeeze through a gap no wider than a coin, folding itself almost entirely away. The octopus wears its moods on its skin. In an instant, it can flush from pale to dark, raise its skin into spikes and ridges to match coral or stone, and vanish against the sea floor so completely that the eye slides right past it. The strangest part is that octopuses appear to be colorblind, unable to see the very colors they so perfectly become. How they match a world they cannot fully see remains a soft mystery. One kind, the mimic octopus, goes further still, reshaping its body and its movements to impersonate other animals entirely, flattening into the shape of a venomous flatfish, or drawing its arms into the banded pattern of a sea snake, becoming a different creature whenever danger nears. And deep in their cells, octopuses do something almost no other animal can. They edit their own genetic instructions on the fly, rewriting the messages their nerves use, especially in the cold, tuning their own bodies to the temperature of the water around them. They are, in a sense, always quietly revising themselves. Let the octopus fold back into the dark, arms trailing, skin dimming to the color of deep water, and let us rise again onto land, to the largest thinkers that walk it. The elephants. An elephant knows itself, shown a large mirror. An elephant has reached up with its trunk to touch a mark placed where it could only be seen, in the reflection, understanding that the elephant in the glass is no stranger, but its own self. An elephant named Happy did this, calmly, deliberately, joining the small circle of animals known to recognize their own reflection. And elephants seem to understand death in a way that is hard to watch without feeling something. They grow quiet and still around the bones of their dead, especially the bones of their own families. They reach out with their trunks and touch the skulls and the great curved tusks gently, turning them over, returning to the same place across many years, as though visiting. When a member of the herd is dying, the others gather close. They try to lift the fallen one back to its feet. They stay beside the body long after, reluctant to leave. Elephants comfort one another in distress, reaching out to touch a frightened companion, placing a trunk softly into another's mouth, a gesture that seems to say simply, "I am here," and they speak across distances we cannot hear. Much of an elephant's voice travels as infrasound, a deep rumble below the reach of human ears, rolling across the savannah for miles, so that herds far apart can stay in quiet conversation, calling and answering through the ground itself. An elephant's memory is long and true. The oldest females, the matriarchs, carry maps inside their minds, the routes to distant water in times of drought, the safe paths, the dangerous places, knowledge gathered across decades and passed to the herd by being followed. Herds led by older matriarchs survive hard years better because the old ones remember where the water hid the last. Time the rains failed. Many years before, elephants can even tell human voices apart, distinguishing the languages of peoples who hunt them from the languages of peoples who do not, and reacting with calm or with caution, depending on what they hear. They learn which of us to fear. And elephants use the world around them as tools. They strip branches to swat at flies, scratch themselves against trees, and have even been seen to chew bark into a plug and drop it into a waterhole, sealing the water away beneath the sand, so they might return and drink it later. They will work together. Two elephants, each holding the end of a single rope, have learned that the food can only be drawn near if both pull at the same moment, and so they wait for each other, cooperating, understanding that the task needs a partner. Let the elephants move off slowly into the tall grass, dust rising gold behind them, and let us follow the warm currents back into the water, to the dolphins. A dolphin has a name. Each bottlenose dolphin invents its own signature whistle early in life, a unique sound that means itself, and the others learn it and use it, calling that particular dolphin by its particular whistle. Across the open sea, they will answer to their own whistle and copy the whistle of a friend to get its attention, the way we might call out a name across a crowded room. And dolphins remember these names for a very long time. Two dolphins separated for 20 years, kept oceans apart, have recognized each other's signature whistles instantly upon hearing a recording. A friendship held intact across 2 decades of silence. Dolphins know themselves in mirrors, turning and twisting to examine marks they could not otherwise see, inspecting their own bodies in the glass with what looks like curiosity, and they pass knowledge from mother to child. In one bay in Australia, certain dolphins tear off a sea sponge and wear it over their sensitive beaks like a glove, using it to root through the rough sea floor for hidden fish without scraping themselves. Only some dolphins do this, and they learn it almost always from their mothers, a small tradition handed down a family line, a culture carried in the warm dark of the sea. In another place, off the coast of Brazil, dolphins and human fishermen have worked together for generations. The dolphins herd fish toward the waiting people and signal with a particular roll or slap of the tail, the exact moment to cast the nets, and both go home, fed. Neither was made to do this. They simply learned over long years to read one another. And a dolphin never fully sleeps. It rests one half of its brain at a time, keeping the other half awake to surface and breathe and watch for danger, drifting through the night with one eye open, half dreaming, half awake, forever. Their larger cousins, the great whales, carry cultures of their own. Sperm whales gather in clans that share particular patterns of clicks, like dialects, and a whale born into one clan speaks differently from a whale born into another, even when they share the same waters. Humpback whales sing long, structured songs that change a little each year, and a new song can spread across an entire ocean, passing from one population to the next, until whales thousands of miles apart are singing the same, slowly, shifting tune. And the orcas, the great black and white hunters, pass down their ways of living from old to young, distinct families with distinct prey and distinct methods, some that beach themselves on purpose to snatch seals from the shore and then wriggle back to the sea, teaching the dangerous trick carefully to their calves over many years. Now, let the whales sound and dive, their songs fading into the deep, and let us return to the shore, to the warm and familiar companion sleeping somewhere near you now. Perhaps the dog. A dog reads us in ways even our closest animal relatives cannot. Point at something, anything, and a dog will follow your finger to find what you mean, understanding the gesture almost from puppyhood. Chimpanzees, for all their cleverness, often fail this simple test, while dogs pass it easily, because dogs have spent tens of thousands of years at our side, learning to read the soft signals of our hands and faces and eyes. A dog follows your gaze to see what you are looking at. A dog reads the expression on your face, telling a happy look from an angry one, and tends to step softly around the angry one. Some dogs have learned the meanings of a great many words. A border collie named Chaser learned the individual names of more than 1,000 toys, fetching each one correctly when asked, and could even work out by elimination that an unfamiliar word must belong to the one new toy she had never seen before. In recent years, some dogs have learned to press buttons on a soundboard, each button speaking a word, and have begun pressing them together in small clusters that seem, at least sometimes, to mean something true. A dog's nose is a window into a world we cannot enter. Dogs can be trained to smell the faint chemical traces of illness on a person's breath or skin, sensing certain cancers or the coming of a seizure or the drop of blood sugar, minutes before anything else can, and they read our feelings partly by scent, picking up the subtle changes in the smell of fear or of calm, so that a dog often knows our mood before we have said a word. Dogs seem to feel something like jealousy, pushing between their person and a rival for attention, and something like fairness, growing reluctant to perform a trick for no reward when another dog beside them is being paid for the same work. Let the dog settle and sigh and rest its head down, and let us climb now into the trees to the apes who are our nearest kin. Chimpanzees make and use a whole kit of tools. They strip the leaves from a slender twig and slide it into a termite mound, drawing it out covered in insects to eat. And they have been seen to choose different tools for different jobs. A thin probe for fishing, a stout stick for digging, even carrying favorite tools from place to place. Some chimpanzees crack hard nuts with a stone hammer against a stone anvil, a skill so difficult that young chimps spend years learning it, watching their mothers, failing and trying again, the way a child learns a craft. Different groups of chimpanzees have different customs, different tools, different ways of grooming and greeting, traditions that pass from one generation to the next and differ from one forest to another, so that scientists speak carefully of chimpanzee cultures. In one place, chimps have even been seen to sharpen sticks into crude spears and jab them into hollows where small primates sleep, hunting with a made weapon. And the memory of a chimpanzee can outrun our own in certain narrow ways. A young chimp named Ayumu, shown numbers flashed on a screen for less than a second, and then hidden, can tap them back in their proper order faster and more accurately than nearly any human being. A flash of memory, so quick it seems almost unfair. Other apes reach toward our very words. A bonobo named Kanzi learned to understand a great deal of spoken English and to answer by pointing at symbols on a board, and could follow new and unusual sentences he had never heard before, fetching the right object to the right place. A gorilla learned to make many hand signs, and an orangutan will plan its travels through the forest, calling out the next morning's direction the evening before, so that the others may follow at dawn. In the rivers and on the shores, capuchin monkeys carry stones heavier than themselves to crack open nuts on stone anvils, choosing the right stone with care. And on one Japanese island, a young macaque named Imo once began washing the sand from her sweet potatoes in the sea, and the habit spread through her troop and passed down the years, a small invention becoming a lasting custom. Let the apes climb higher into the leaves and grow quiet, and let us return to the birds, for the air is full of clever minds. There was a parrot named Alex, an African grey, who learned to name colours and shapes and materials aloud, to count small groups of objects, and to understand the idea of same and different. When shown a tray of things, he could answer how many were red or which was bigger in spoken English words. And once, with no one having taught him, he seemed to grasp the idea of zero, of none, of an absence where a number should be, a concept that took human mathematicians thousands of years to name. His last words to his keeper on an ordinary evening were the ones he said every night. You be good. I love you. Other parrots astonish in their own ways. Goffins, cockatoos, which use no tools in the wild, will invent them in a laboratory, tearing cardboard into long strips to reach a nut, or picking locks made of several different mechanisms in the right order to open a box, solving each new latch to reach the next. The key, a bold green parrot of the New Zealand mountains, solves puzzles, works together with other keys to reach food, and is famous for its mischief, pulling apart windshield wipers and backpacks and anything left loose. Simply, it seems, to see what will happen. Pigeons, so often overlooked, can be taught to tell a painting by Monet from a painting by Picasso, to sort photographs into categories, and even to recognize themselves in a mirror and human faces in a crowd. Beneath the plain grey feathers is a quietly capable mind. And some birds remember where they have hidden things with a precision that humbles us. The Clark's nutcracker, a bird of the high pines, buries tens of thousands of seeds across miles of mountainside in the autumn, in thousands of separate hiding places. And through the long winter, it returns and finds them again, remembering location after location beneath the snow. The scrub jay remembers not only where it hid its food, but what it hid and when, returning sooner for the worms that spoil quickly, and leaving the nuts that keep, a memory braided with time itself. Even the humble chicken has more going on than we tend to grant it, with more than 24 distinct calls for different events and dangers, and a tendency to grow distressed when one of its chicks is in trouble, feeling, it seems, a flicker of another's fear. Now let the birds settle onto their branches, heads tucking beneath wings, and let us go, smaller still, down among the insects, where intelligence hides in bodies no larger than a grain of rice. A honeybee can count, at least a little, telling 2 from 3 from 4. And bees have even shown signs of understanding 0, of treating an empty space as less than 1. Bees can be trained to roll a small ball into a goal for a drop of sugar, a task utterly unlike anything in their natural lives. And a bee that watches another bee do it first learns it faster, learning from its neighbor. And bees speak in dance. A bee returning to the hive, having found flowers, will dance. A looping, waggling figure in the dark, and the angle and the length of that waggle tell the others exactly which direction to fly and how far. A map drawn in movement, read by touch and sound in total darkness. The ants, too, hold a kind of intelligence, though it lives less in any single ant than in the whole moving colony. Some ants farm, growing gardens of fungus underground and tending them like crops, feeding them and weeding them and carrying them to new nests. Others herd small insects called aphids, protecting them and stroking them to harvest the sweet droplets they give off, the way we keep cattle. No single ant understands the farm or the herd. The understanding lives in the colony as a whole, in the patterns that emerge when many simple creatures follow simple rules together a mind made of thousands of tiny minds. Let the insects blur into the warm dark, and let us return to the soft, furred creatures closer to ourselves. The rats, so often unloved, are gentle and clever in ways that may surprise. A rat will free another rat from a trap, working at the latch to release a trapped companion even when there is no reward in it, and will sometimes free the other before going to a pile of food, choosing the friend first. Rats appear to feel something for one another, a thread of fellow feeling, and rats laugh when tickled gently. They make a high chirping sound far above our hearing, a sound that seems to be laughter, and they come back for more, chasing the hand that tickles them. As they sleep, rats appear to replay the mazes they ran while awake, their brains tracing the same paths in dreams, practicing in sleep the roads they walked by day. The pigs are cleverer than we, like to admit of an animal we know mostly from the farm. A pig can learn to move a cursor on a screen with a joystick held in its snout, steering toward a target for a reward, a task that asks it to understand that its own movement changes the picture before it. Pigs can use a mirror to find food hidden behind them, glancing at the reflection and then turning to the real thing, understanding the trick of the glass. They have good memories, distinct personalities, and a fondness for play. And the squirrels burying acorns in the autumn will sometimes only pretend to bury one, digging the hole and covering it again, while hiding the true nut elsewhere. A small deception performed when they sense a rival watching. The same trick the ravens play, invented all over again in a different branch of the tree of life. Now let us return once more to the sea, for it holds the strangest minds of all. The sea otter, floating on its back among the waves, keeps a favorite stone, a particular rock it carries in a loose pouch of skin beneath its arm, and uses again and again to crack open shellfish against its own chest. Some otters keep the same beloved rock for a long time, a single tool chosen and kept. The cuttlefish, a cousin of the octopus, can wait, offered a small meal now or a better meal soon. A cuttlefish will hold itself back and wait for the better one, passing a test of patience that young children often fail, refusing the lesser reward to earn the greater. And the cuttlefish remembers its own past meals in detail, recalling not just what it last ate, but where and how long ago, adjusting its hunting to what it remembers. There are fish, too, that surprise us. The archer fish, which knocks insects from overhanging leaves by spitting a precise jet of water, can learn to tell one human face from another, picking out a familiar face from among many, a feat once thought far beyond a fish, the little cleaner wrasse, a fish that grooms larger fish for a living, has touched a mark on its own body after seeing it in a mirror, the first fish to seem to pass that ancient test of self-recognition, stirring deep arguments about how widely the sense of self may reach across life. And manta rays, gliding like great slow kites through open water, have shown signs of recognizing themselves in a mirror as well, checking their reflections with what looks like interest, even on the farm and in the field. The quiet minds keep surprising us. Horses have learned to tell a keeper by touching one symbol or another with their muzzle, whether they would like a blanket put on or taken off in changing weather, telling us their preference in a code we taught them, and choosing rightly for the cold or the warmth. Goats can solve a puzzle box, pulling a lever and then lifting it to release a treat, and can still remember how to do it many months later, the solution kept whole in memory. And even creatures we think of as cold and ancient hold sparks of cleverness. Some crocodiles have been seen to balance sticks on their snouts during the season when birds are hunting for nesting twigs, luring the birds close with the very thing they seek, a reptile using bait. And among the spiders, there is one small hunter with a mind out of all proportion to its size. The jumping spider called Portia hunts other spiders, and it plans. It will study a web from a distance, work out a route that takes it the long way around, even out of sight of its prey, and then follow that planned path patiently to arrive from above, holding the whole plan in a brain smaller than a pinhead. It will pluck at a web to imitate a trapped insect, tuning its trickery until the resident spider comes to investigate, and learning by trial which signals work on which prey. A mind smaller than a grain of sand, and yet it schemes. There are gentler facts, too, scattered across the animal world like soft light. Vampire bats remember those who have shared food with them and return the favor later, keeping a quiet ledger of kindness across a colony, more likely to feed a hungry friend who once fed them. Prairie dogs standing at their burrows, have calls so detailed they can describe an approaching intruder, its size, its shape, even its color, packing a little portrait into a single sharp bark to warn the others. And the humble bumblebee will sometimes appear to play, rolling little wooden balls about with no reward at all, the young ones rolling them most, as if for nothing more than the pleasure of it. Whales, returning to us once more in the deep of the night, carry sorrows we can almost recognize. A mother orca was once seen to carry her dead calf with her for 17 days, pushing the small body through the water across more than 1,000 miles, unwilling, it seemed, to let it sink and go. And the great sperm whale has the largest brain of any creature that has ever lived on the earth, larger than an elephant's, larger by far than our own. A vast and unknowable mind, moving slowly through the lightless deep, thinking thoughts we will never share. Back on land, the wolves who became our dogs still hunt with a coordination that looks like planning, taking up different roles in the chase, some driving the prey while others wait ahead, an understanding shared without a word. And ravens, when they find a carcass too large to claim alone, will sometimes call loudly to summon others, trading a share of the food for the safety of numbers, weighing what to keep against what to give away. Honeybees, choosing a new home, hold something like a vote. Scouts dancing to argue for their favorite sites until, slowly, the swarm agrees and lifts and flies together to the place they have chosen. Let us drift back for a while to the crows and their kin, because there is more in them than one telling can hold. Crows seem to reason about cause and effect in ways that edge close to understanding. Shown a heavy object that makes a platform tip, a crow can learn to drop the right weight to release a reward. And some have grasped that a hidden hand, rather than magic, moves the things they cannot see. Ravens console one another after a fight, the bystanders coming to the loser afterward to sit close and preen its feathers, soothing the one who lost. And ravens remember who has treated them fairly. In careful tests, they will trade with a person who has dealt honestly with them before and refuse the one who once cheated them, holding the memory of a single unfair exchange. For a month or more, the jackdaw, another small black corvid, reads the human eye. It can follow where a person is looking and grows wary when a stranger's gaze rests directly on it, hesitating to take food while watched, as though it knows that eyes turned toward it mean attention. Rooks, which use no tools in the wild, will drop stones to raise water just as the crows do, and will bend wire into hooks in the laboratory. The same buried cleverness waiting in a bird that never needs it, and the New Caledonian crows, the finest tool makers of all the birds, will use one tool to obtain another, reaching a short stick to draw out a longer stick, and only then using the long stick to reach the food, holding a plan of several steps in mind before the first move is made. There is a moment, often, when a crow seems to think before it acts, pausing over a problem, turning its head, and only then reaching for the answer, as though something is happening behind the eyes that we would call in ourselves consideration. Young crows learn slowly, watching their parents and the older birds, playing with sticks and stones long before they ever need them, practicing at cleverness the way a child practices at play. And crows hold what looks like memory of the dead across the seasons, growing wary of a place where they once saw one of their own come to harm, avoiding it long after, carrying the lesson forward into a wariness that may outlast the danger itself. Now, let the corvids settle once more, and let us slip again into the water, for the octopus and its cousins have more secrets still. An octopus, sleeping, will sometimes flush through a rolling sequence of colours and patterns across its skin, the same shifting display it makes while hunting. And some who watch them wonder whether the creature is dreaming, replaying the chase across its body in its sleep. Octopuses have been seen to throw things, gathering silt and shell in their arms, and hurling the debris through the water, sometimes squarely at another octopus that has come too near, an act that looks, from outside, very much like temper, and an octopus that loses an arm grows it back, the new limb wired with its own working nerves, so that the creature is never quite finished being built. The cuttlefish, drifting in its barred and shimmering coat, can count, choosing a chamber with more shrimp over a chamber with fewer, and telling apart even close numbers. When the meal is worth the care, the cuttlefish also seems to weigh its hunger against its hopes, eating less in the daytime when it has learned that its favorite food, the small shrimp, reliably comes at night, saving its appetite for the better meal it has come to expect. And there are true fish among the tool makers. A tusk fish has been filmed carrying a clam in its mouth to a particular rock it uses again and again, smashing the shell against the stone to break it open. A fish with a chosen anvil. Groupers, hunting along the reef, will signal to an eel or an octopus with a shake of the head and a pointing of the body, inviting the other hunter to flush prey from the cracks the grouper cannot reach. Two different species hunting as a team by agreement. Let the reef grow quiet, the fish drifting into the shadows of the coral, and let us return to the great landmines, the elephants, for their gentleness runs deeper than one passage can carry. Elephants are afraid of bees, and they rumble a special warning call when bees are near, a particular sound that sends the herd moving away. And farmers in some places now hang lines of beehives along their fences, so that the elephants, hearing and fearing the hum, keep gently to their own paths and away from the crops. Elephants greet one another after time apart with a great show of joy, rumbling and trumpeting, spinning, flapping their ears, reaching out their trunks to touch and entwine, a reunion that anyone watching would know at once for happiness. And in the newest listening, scientists believe elephants may call each other by something like names, particular rumbles aimed at particular individuals, so that an elephant will answer to its own sound and not to another's. A name spoken in a register half below our hearing. An elephant in distress is comforted by the others, who gather close and stroke it. With their trunks and chorus low, reassuring sounds. And an elephant will help another that is stuck or fallen, pushing and pulling and working together to lift a companion free. They seem to understand when a task needs more than one, and to wait for help to arrive. Elephants will carry the bones of their dead in their trunks and turn them gently, and they grow still and subdued in the presence of elephant bones in a way they never do. For the bones of other animals, singling out their own kind, even in death. And the matriarch's mind is the herd's library. When she dies, the herd can lose the map she carried, the knowledge of the far water and the safe road, so that the death of one old female is the loss of 100 years of remembering, gone in a single passing. Now let the elephants fade once more into the dust and distance, and let us follow the dolphins a little further, for the sea keeps more of their cleverness than we have, yet told. Dolphins have learned to understand small sentences made of gestures or sounds, grasping that the order of the signals changes the meaning, that to take the ball to the hoop is not the same as to take the hoop to the ball. They can be told by a particular signal to do something new, something they have never been asked before, inventing a fresh trick on command, which means they understand in some way the very idea of newness, of doing what has not been done. And dolphins help others in trouble, holding a sick or struggling companion at the surface so that it can breathe. And there are old stories, some of them well attested, of dolphins guiding lost swimmers to shore or circling them against sharks. Dolphins blow rings of air underwater and chase them, the smooth silver rings rising and wobbling, while the dolphin darts to bite them apart. A game with no purpose but delight. They recognize themselves in mirrors earlier in life than human children do, turning to inspect parts of their bodies they could never otherwise see. And in some bays, they hunt by stirring the soft mud into a ring with their tails, a rising curtain of cloud that pens the fish, which leap in panic straight into the waiting mouths. A trap of mud built by a mind that understood how frightened fish would flee. The sperm whales, far below, name themselves too, in a sense, each clan marked by its own rhythm of clicks, the calves babbling and practicing the family pattern for years until they speak it true, learning the dialect of their people the way a child learns, the tongue of home. Let the whales sink again into the dark water, their clicks fading, and let us go back to the warm hearthside companion, the dog, who holds yet more than we have said. A dog seems to keep something like episodes in memory, recalling an action it saw a person do even when it had no reason to expect to be asked about it later, repeating the gesture on command, which hints that the moment was stored as a small, remembered scene. Dogs are sensitive to fairness, and a dog will grow reluctant to give its paw again if it sees another dog rewarded for the same trick while it gets nothing, a quiet sense that the deal has gone unjust, and a dog appears to feel something like jealousy, pushing in, nudging, working to break apart its person, and any rival that draws the affection it wants for itself. A dog's nose may even read time. The smell of a household rises and fades across the hours in a slow and steady way. And some believe a dog tracks the passing of the day by the falling strength of its person's scent, knowing by the nose alone when the hour of return draws near. Dogs dream, their paws twitching and their voices murmuring in sleep, running, it seems, through the fields of the day again, and dogs catch our yawns, yawning back when we yawn, more readily when the yawn comes from someone they love, a small thread of fellow feeling passing between our kinds. Let the dog sink deeper into sleep, paws stirring, and let us climb once more into the trees, to the apes who carry the heaviest share of all. Chimpanzees go to war, the males of one group patrolling their borders in silence and, over years, raiding and overcoming a neighboring group. A grim and deliberate campaign that unsettled the scientists who first saw it. And chimpanzees heal themselves, choosing certain bitter leaves and swallowing them whole when their bellies are troubled by worms. The rough leaves carrying the parasites out. A medicine learned and passed down the generations of the forest. They comfort the losers of fights with an embrace, and they share, and they deceive, hiding their excitement at found food, so that others will not follow, or leading rivals away from what they want to keep. Orangutans, slow and solitary in the high canopy, will fashion a leaf into a whistle to change the sound of their own voices, and will use a stick to gauge the depth of water before they trust it, and will save a tool for a task that is still hours away. The gorillas, vast and gentle, hum and sing softly to themselves while they eat, a low, contented sound that seems to mean the meal is good and that all is well. And the others, hearing it, stay close. Bonobos, the most peaceable of the apes, will share their food even with a stranger, choosing company over keeping, opening a door to let an unknown bonobo in to eat beside them, and the small gibbons swinging through the far canopy, Sing long duets between mate and mate at dawn, intricate answering songs that bind the pair and mark their place in the forest. A music made and held between two minds. Let the apes climb into the high green light and grow still, and let us return to the smaller, stranger thinkers that share the world. The bees hold more wonders than their size should allow. A bee can learn the face of a particular flower and even, in tests, learn to tell apart pictures of human faces, holding the pattern in a brain smaller than a seed. Bees can be gloomy or hopeful, and a bee that has been shaken and frightened will judge an uncertain smell more darkly, expecting the worse outcome. The nearest thing to a mood that so small a creature has shown, and bees teach one another. A bee that has learned to pull a string or roll a ball, passing the skill along the colony by example, so that a single clever discovery can spread until many bees know the trick, the waggle dance, the looping figure that tells direction and distance in the dark, is learned in part by watching. The young bees following the older dancers to read the map aright. There are birds that lead human beings by the hand in a manner of speaking. The honey guide, a small African bird, will fly ahead of a person, calling and waiting, drawing them on toward a wild bee's nest hidden in a tree, so that the person may open it and take the honey and leave the wax and grubs for the bird. In some places, the people have a special call that summons the honey guide, and the bird answers that call above all others. The two species speaking to each other across the gulf between bird and human. To share a meal, neither could so easily win alone. It is one of the only places on earth where a wild animal and a person truly cooperate by a language they have built between them. And it is very old, older than any of us can say. The little chickadee packs danger into its very name, its soft DDD call carrying more Ds when the threat is greater, so that the others know from the number of notes how large or small the danger is, a warning that counts. The Clark's nutcracker, returning to its tens of thousands of buried seeds, will find them again even after the land has changed, navigating by the shapes of rocks and trees toward each small hidden store beneath months of snow. The scrub jay, hiding its food while another jay watches, will come back later alone, and move it all to new hiding places, knowing that a watched cache is a stolen cache, but only the jays that have themselves been thieves think. To do this, as though a bird must have stolen to imagine being robbed. And there are vultures that drop stones onto thick eggs to break them, and a small finch that holds a cactus spine in its beak to pry, grubs from bark, tools invented at the far edges of the bird family, again and again. Wherever a clever beak meets a problem, now let the birds settle once more, and let us walk among the warm and furred again. For the field and the forest floor are full of minds. The rat knows what it knows, and a rat offered a hard test, or an easy one, will often decline the hard test when it is unsure, taking the smaller certain reward rather than risk the larger uncertain. 1. A creature judging its own confidence. A rat will help a soaked companion onto dry ground and will share its food, and seems to feel a pull toward the trouble of another rat. The meerkats teach their pups, the grown ones bringing first dead scorpions, then living but disabled ones, then whole live scorpions as the pups grow able. A lesson given in careful stages, harder as the young one learns, which is teaching in the truest sense. The ants teach as well. One ant leading another to food along a slow tandem walk, the leader waiting whenever the follower falls behind, the follower tapping the leader to say it is ready to go on, a patient back and forth that carries knowledge from one small mind to the next. The raccoon, clever and quick-fingered, can work a complex latch and remember the solution for years, and has even solved a version of the old fable, dropping stones to raise the water to a floating reward. The sea lion has learned a kind of logic, taught that one shape goes with a second, and the second with a third, and working out on its own, that the first must therefore go with the third. A thread of reasoning followed without being shown, and the prairie dog, standing sentinel at its burrow, barks a portrait of the intruder, fast or slow, large or small, even the colour of a passing coat folded into the call, so that the whole town knows what comes before they ever see it. The pig deceives, a pig that has learned where food is hidden, and that is followed by a larger pig who steals what it finds, will learn to lead the thief astray, going first to an empty place, and doubling back to the food once the rival is fooled. A small lie told for a meal. The squirrel makes false caches when it feels watched, digging and covering an empty hole, while it tucks the true nut away elsewhere. The same deception the ravens and the jays have each invented in their own branch of life. And the otter, floating on its back with its chosen stone, will teach its pup to dive and to crack shellfish, the young one clumsy at first, dropping the rock, missing the shell, learning slowly at its mother's side. Let the warm creatures curl into their burrows and their kelp beds, and let us draw gently toward the close. There is still more, drifting at the edges, soft and strange. The crows can count in their way. A crow trained to caw a chosen number of times for a chosen sign, holding the small number in mind and stopping when it is reached. Crows can match by relation. 2. Learning that two same things go together and two different things go together, grasping the likeness between likenesses. A thread of abstract thought, once thought to belong to apes alone. And the raven's point, in the only way a bird can, picking up a twig or a stone and holding it out toward another raven, showing it, offering it, drawing the other's eye to a thing the way a child points before it can speak, the first wild gesture of its kind found outside our own near kin. The magpies, for their part, have been seen to help one another in trouble, working together to pry loose the small tracking harnesses that researchers had fitted to them, one bird freeing another, a quiet conspiracy of rescue. Beneath the waves, the octopuses gather in places of their own, in a few spots on the sea floor. Many octopuses have been found living close together, meeting and signaling and quarreling, darkening their skin to threaten and paling to keep the peace. Small cities of a creature we long believed to be a hermit. They know one another apart, and they remember who has crossed them. The cuttlefish, holding itself back from the lesser meal to wait for the better, tend to be the ones with the longest memories, as though patience and remembering grow from the same root. And there are fish that count and fish that plan, a little wrasse that carries its clam to a chosen stone, a grouper that fetches a hunting partner with a shake of its head, minds at work behind eyes we rarely think to meet. The elephants follow a pointing finger, one of the very few animals besides the dog that understands at once what a pointed human hand means, looking not at the hand, but to where it aims. They tell larger amounts from smaller, choosing the greater pile of food, and they feel the world through their feet, picking up the deep tremor of a distant herd or a coming storm through the soft pads of their soles and the tips of their trunks, listening to the ground. They greet, they grieve, they comfort, they remember, and they fear the small hum of bees and warn each other of it in a sound made just. For that fear, the dolphins carry the second roomiest brain, for their size, of any creature alive, behind only our own, and they wear their cleverness lightly, blowing rings to chase, inventing tricks on command, holding the names of old friends. Across the long years of the sea, the whales among them are kind beyond their own kind. Humpback whales have been seen to drive off orcas that were hunting seals and other small creatures, placing their great bodies between the hunters and the hunted, lifting a seal clear of the water on the broad shelf of a flipper, defending an animal that was no relation of theirs at all. For reasons we cannot fully name, a beluga whale once learned to lower the pitch of its voice and shape sounds that drifted close to human speech, mimicking the rhythm of the people who kept it, until a diver in the water thought for a moment that a person had spoken. The minds of the deep reach toward us, now and then, across the cold water. The dog keeps surprising. A dog notices when the number of treats changes, looking longer when one is taken away by sleight of hand, holding in its head how many there should be. A dog wags more to the right when it feels something good and more, to the left when it feels something wary, its very tail betraying the leaning of its heart. And a rare few dogs learn words with astonishing speed, hearing the name of a new toy only a handful of times and keeping it for weeks. A gift for language that even among dogs is uncommon and precious. The dog reads our faces, our hands, our voices, our moods, and somewhere in the long companionship between our kinds, it has tuned itself to us so finely that it often seems to know our minds before we speak them. The apes carry fashions and rhythms. In one group of chimpanzees, a female once took to wearing a blade of grass dangling from her ear. For no purpose anyone could find, and the others copied her, the small style spreading through the group and lasting beyond her death. A fashion with no use but belonging. Chimpanzees drum on the great flat roots of trees, each with his own rhythm, the booming carrying through the forest, to say who is near and where. A signature beaten out in wood. They fold leaves into sponges to soak up water from hollows they cannot reach with their lips, and chew them to drink. And the orangutans, when the rain comes, will hold a broad leaf above themselves like a roof, sheltering under the forest's own canopy within the canopy. The parrots reach toward one another across distance, taught to call their keepers by ringing a bell, and then to speak through a screen. Some pet parrots have learned to ask for a video call with another parrot, and given the choice, they call again and again, chiming and bobbing at the friend in the glass, seeking the company of their own kind through the strange window we opened for them. A cockatoo named Snowball dances to music, keeping the beat and inventing new moves of his own, swinging his head and lifting his foot in time to a rhythm no parrot in the wild would ever hear. Moving, it seems, simply because the music asks him to. And African grey parrots will help a partner, handing over a token that the other can trade for food, giving aid that brings them nothing themselves. A small generosity in a bird, the pigeon, so plain, holds a navigator's mind and more. It finds its way home across hundreds of miles by the sun, by the earth's magnetic field, by the lay of the land, and even, it seems, by smell, carrying a map and a compass folded into its small grey head. Pigeons have been trained to spot the signs of disease in medical images, learning to tell the healthy tissue from the sick nearly, as well as a doctor, and they handle a famous puzzle of chance. The choice of changing a first guess once a wrong option is revealed better than most people do, learning by patient trial to take the path that wins more often. And the bees, smallest of all our thinkers, can add and take away, taught that one colour means add one and another means take one, and working the small sums for a sip of sugar. Arithmetic in a brain the size of a poppy seed. The ants rescue their own digging frantically at the sand to free a nestmate pinned. Beneath it, pulling at the very legs of the trapped one, working until it comes loose. Help, given freely in the dark beneath the ground. The bats know each other's voices. The mother bat finding her own pup among thousands by its particular cry, and the fruit bats squabbling in their roosts in calls, so distinct that we can tell by listening which bat is speaking and even what the quarrel is about. The beaver builds its dam by the sound of running water, driven to pack mud and sticks against the noise of a leak until the trickle falls silent. An engineer that works by ear, and the horse remembers a face and the mood that went with it, treating a person more warily if it once saw that person angry, holding the memory of a frown across the months between. The goats look to us for help, turning their gaze toward a human face when a task defeats them, asking with their eyes the way a dog will, and they prefer a smiling face to a scowling one, drawn to the kinder look. Sheep, so easily dismissed, can learn and remember many faces of other sheep and of people, recognizing a familiar face in a photograph and holding it for years. Cows form close friendships and fret when parted from a particular friend, their hearts quickening at the separation and easing at the reunion. And the small jumping spider, the patient planner with the pinhead mind, falls at night into a state much like our own dreaming, its legs twitching and the dark parts of its eyes flickering, so that even the spider, it may be, drifts at night through dreams we cannot guess, and still the soft facts drift on, one after another, into the dark. The young gorillas of one mountain forest have been seen to find the snares that poachers set and to take them apart, jumping on the bent branch to spring the trap and pulling the noose loose, working together to undo the very things that had hurt their kind. A knowledge of danger turned into a careful unmaking of it. The ravens understand being watched in a way that runs deep. A raven that knows there is a peephole in the wall through which an unseen rival might be spying, will hide its food as carefully as if a bird stood plainly before it, guarding against a watcher it cannot see, but knows could be there. Imagining another mind, imagining its horde. The New Caledonian crows, the great tool makers, can even join pieces together, fitting one short part into another to make a longer tool than any single piece would give. Building a thing in parts to reach what no part alone could reach. A kind of making that we once believed only human hands and human minds could manage. And the pigeon, plain and patient, can be taught to know true words from false ones, to tell a real string of letters from a jumble, sorting the words it has never seen by the shape and order of their letters, reading, in a small and partial way, with a mind we never thought could read at all. The lyre bird of the Australian forest holds 1,000 voices in its throat. It mimics the calls of every bird around it, and more, weaving into its song the sounds of the human world it has heard, the click of a camera, the ring of an alarm, even the distant growl of machinery, all of it spun together into a long and tumbling performance. A living record of every sound the forest has carried to its ears. The mockingbird, too, holds the memory of faces, learning to know the particular person who once came too near its nest and scolding that one alone out of all the people who pass, singling out a remembered threat from the harmless crowd. And along the cliffs, certain seabirds learn the face of the researcher who once climbed to their ledge and cry out at that person while ignoring all the strangers who walk the same path. The bowerbird is an artist and an illusionist. The male builds a bower of woven sticks and decorates it with treasures gathered far and wide, sorting his finds by colour, laying out a courtyard of shells, or stones, or bright stolen things, and arranging them by size, the small ones near and the large ones far, so that to the watching female, the whole display seems evenly grand, a trick of perspective built on purpose to charm the eye. He tends it and rearranges it and guards it from rivals who would come to wreck it. The patience of a craftsman in a creature of feathers. The naked mole rats, living in the warm dark beneath the ground, speak in the dialects of their colonies, each colony with its own soft chirping accent, and a mole rat raised among strangers takes on the accent of the home it joins, the sound of belonging, learned rather than born. The rats, given the chance, will learn to drive, steering tiny vehicles toward a reward, gripping the controls and rolling forward and they seem to enjoy it, growing eager and calm in the doing. The small task lifting something in them that looks, from outside, like contentment, and everywhere, in the burrow and the bower and the deep, warm dark. These minds go on quietly being themselves, knowing what they know, remembering what they remember, asking nothing of us but that we look now and then and wonder. The deeper one looks, the more the line we drew around our own intelligence begins to soften and blur. The mirror that once seemed to belong to us alone has been passed. Now, by elephants and dolphins and magpies, by a small cleaning fish and a great gliding ray. The names we thought were ours are whistled between dolphins across the sea. The grief we thought was ours is carried by elephants returning to old bones, and by a whale who would not let her calf go. The planning we prized is folded into a raven's hidden food, an octopus's carried shell, a spider's patient route. The teaching we valued passes between dolphin mothers and their calves, between chimpanzees in the forest, between whales singing across the ocean, and memory, perhaps the softest thread of all, runs everywhere through the animal world. The crow remembers a face for years. The elephant remembers the road to water across decades. The nutcracker remembers thousands of buried seeds beneath the snow. The dolphin remembers a friend's name across 20 years of silence. The rat remembers its maze even as it sleeps and dreams. Everywhere, in feathers and fur and scale and shell, something is being held onto, carried forward, kept safe against forgetting. The world is full of remembering creatures, each holding its small portion of the past, each finding its way by what it has learned. There is no need to hold on to any of it now. The crows have folded their wings. The octopus has dimmed into the dark. The elephants have moved off into the tall grass, and the dolphins have slipped back beneath the warm and silver surface of the sea. The whales are sounding into the deep, their songs growing faint and far. The clever little minds of the world are settling, one by one, into their own kinds of rest. The rats curled and dreaming, the parrots tucked beneath their wings, the bees gone still in the dark hive, the spider folded quietly in its corner, and the night draws in. Imagery narrows. The mind grows heavy and slow. Somewhere a crow sleeps high in a bare tree. the city quiet below. Somewhere an elephant breathes slowly in the dark, the herd close around it. Somewhere a dolphin drifts half dreaming through black water, one eye softly open, rising now and then to breathe. The moon lies silver on the sea. The deep holds the great slow whales and their unhurried thoughts. The forest holds the sleeping apes. The hidden minds of the world rest on, each carrying its small light of knowing into the dark. Rain begins somewhere, soft against the leaves. Water moves gently over stone. The tide breathes in and out along a distant shore. The crows are still. The sea is still. Moonlight on water. Wind through the dark grass. Slow breath. Quiet minds. Drifting now. Softer. Slower. The warm, dark, closing in. Only the rain. Only the water. Only the sea. Breathing. Breathing beneath the sleeping world.